4,000%. Let that number just sink in for a second. That right there represents the stock growth of Domino's Pizza over the last decade. To put that into perspective, they actually outpaced massive tech companies. It's an absolutely staggering figure for any business, let alone a fast food chain, right? But as you'll see, the path they took to actually achieve this was anything but a straight line.
So the crucial question we have to ask is, how on earth does a brand that publicly admitted its own product tasted like cardboard manage to pull off one of the most incredible corporate rebirths in history? I mean, how do you go from being the literal punchline of late-night jokes to becoming an absolute titan of Wall Street?
Well, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're tracing the Phoenix arc of Domino's Pizza. We're going to walk through this wild, multi-decade story from a genuinely tragic beginning all the way to an unprecedented turnaround.
Let's kick things off with Part 1, a tragic and chaotic start. The orphan who built an empire.
To really understand this entire empire, you've got to look at the incredibly difficult origins of its founder, Tom Monahan. His brutal childhood basically served as the catalyst for a relentless, almost unfathomable work ethic. By age 4, Tom loses his father and gets sent to an orphanage run by strict nuns. He dreams of becoming a priest but ends up getting kicked out of the seminary. Later, after joining the Marines and scraping together $2,000 for college, he literally loses his entire life savings to an oil con artist. Finally, in 1960, he manages to secure just a $500 loan to buy a tiny, struggling pizzeria called Dominick's.
Now, those early days required an insane amount of grit, which created this stark contrast in conviction between Tom and his initial business partner, who happened to be his own brother, Jim. They started the store together, but the grilling hours quickly broke Jim's resolve. Get this, Jim tapped out after just 8 months, trading his full 50% of the business for a used Volkswagen Beetle. Meanwhile, Tom leaned all the way in. He practically lived in the store, working 100-hour weeks, dedicating his heart and soul to keep the whole operation afloat.
You'd think things would get easier from there, right? Nope. Just when things started looking up and Tom wanted to expand to a second store, he fell into what would later be described as the most one-sided partnership in history. He partnered with a guy named Jim Gilmore, trading half the company for absolutely zero money down, under an agreement that left Tom entirely responsible for all the debt. It nearly bankrupted him, but it was a mistake that taught Tom a harsh, incredibly valuable lesson about thoroughly vetting business partners and fiercely protecting his equity.
Moving right along to Part 2, revolutionizing the pizza business. Finding success in simplicity.
Having survived those early chaotic years, Tom had a massive epiphany. Doing too much was actually holding the business back. It's totally counterintuitive, but cutting options actually increased profits. One night, severely understaffed, Tom was forced to slash the menu just to survive the evening dinner rush. He offered just one size of pizza, one type of crust, and one drink. And guess what? Because they were offering fewer items, his team became exponentially faster and way more efficient at delivery. The friction just vanished. By focusing on doing one thing exceptionally well, their margins completely skyrocketed.
Tom essentially started treating pizza delivery like a massive engineering problem, introducing physical innovations that solved the biggest hurdles in the entire industry. Because at the end of the day, delivering pizza meant solving for 2 things, heat and time. So Tom pushed manufacturers to create corrugated cardboard boxes that wouldn't sag into the cheese and would actually hold the heat in. He introduced insulated delivery pouches, implemented revolving ovens to maximize baking speed in a smaller footprint, and even created centralized prep hubs to guarantee uniformity across all his new franchises. He was literally innovating at every single touch point.
But growth comes with a price. Part 3, controversies, lawsuits, and the Noid. The real cost of rapid expansion.
As you probably know, hypergrowth often breeds chaos. As Domino's aggressively scaled to thousands of stores across the country, their relentless focus on speed hit a string of escalating disasters. To absolutely dominate the market, Domino's introduced their incredibly famous guarantee, 30 minutes or it's free. At first, it was a massive sales driver, but it quickly morphed into a horrific PR and legal nightmare. The intense pressure on drivers to beat the clock led to reckless driving, tragically fatal accidents, and immense public outcry. The breaking point finally came when the courts held the company liable, resulting in a staggering $79 million settlement that forced Domino's to kill the campaign entirely.
So, to try and distract from these delivery issues and inject some fun back into the brand, they launched an abrasive new mascot called the Noid. Fast Company wonderfully described it as a gibbering, pot-bellied, buck-toothed pervert squeezed into a skin-tight rabbit costume. The Noid was intended to be this annoying villain at Delaying Pizzas, but bizarrely enough, it became a massive pop culture hit, spawning a ton of merchandise and even video games.
However, you really can't make this stuff up. This surreal success came to a very dark halt. In 1989, a mentally ill man named Kenneth Lamar Noid became fully convinced the ad campaign was a personal attack against him. He stormed into a Domino's down in Georgia and created a literal hostage situation, holding 2 employees for 5 agonizing hours. Thankfully, the employees escaped safely, but the shocking incident forced the immediate and permanent retirement of the mascot.
But the controversies weren't just coming from mascots and delivery times. They were coming straight from the top. As the highly visible public face of the brand, Tom Monahan used his personal wealth to fund deeply personal and polarizing political stances. This eventually sparked a nationwide boycott of Domino's. Realizing that his personal convictions were directly threatening the livelihood of his franchise owners, Tom made the pragmatic choice to step away. In 1998, he sold his entire empire to Bain Capital for a cool $1.1 billion.
Which brings us to part 4, viral disasters and brand decay, the absolute lowest point for the pizza giant. Even after Tom's departure, the corporate entity plunged headfirst into a brand new era of crises, this time fueled by the internet and a dangerous series of cost-cutting measures. Back in the early days of social media, an unimaginably gross viral video created by 2 employees as a prank hit YouTube. It showed them doing highly unsanitary things to food ingredients. It racked up millions of views in a matter of days. And even though the food was never actually served, it severely damaged consumer trust almost overnight. Survey data at the time showed 65% of customers were less likely to order. It just goes to show how incredibly fragile a brand's reputation really is in the digital age.
Now, when you combine this sudden reputational damage with years of quietly cheapening their ingredients to cut operational costs, the product itself had suffered immensely. Consumers just flat out hated the pizza. By 2008, right in the middle of the financial crisis, the company hit rock bottom. Their shares were trading for less than $3. The brand was literally on life support.
But then, part 5 happens. The ultimate tech turnaround. Radical transparency and digital innovation.
From this absolute lowest point, incoming CEO Patrick Doyle orchestrated a rebirth that you honestly have to see to believe. Instead of hiding from the brutal focus group feedback they were getting, Domino's embraced it. They literally broadcast it nationally in an ad campaign. They took full public responsibility, showing real customers saying their pizza tasted like cardboard. It was a completely shocking level of self-awareness.
They executed a 4-part turnaround strategy. Step 1, they gathered that brutal feedback. Step 2, they publicly apologized. Step 3, they systematically destroyed their old product to build a vastly superior recipe from the crust up, improving the cheese, the sauce, the dough, the whole shebang. And step 4, while fixing the food, they simultaneously pivoted their entire operational focus toward technology.
And this tech pivot is the real secret sauce as to why their stock absolutely exploded. They fundamentally stopped acting like just a fast food chain and became a tech company that happens to sell pizza. They were pioneers in mobile ordering. They introduced the real-time pizza tracker, providing both transparency and entertainment to the customer. They optimized their online menus to naturally increase order sizes, and they even pushed the boundaries with self-driving cars and drone experiments. Ultimately, they made the friction of ordering completely disappear. Thanks to this radical honesty regarding their food and their relentless technological innovation regarding their delivery, the payoff was monumental. In 2019, Domino's finally surpassed their longtime rival Pizza Hut to become the #1 largest pizza operation in the entire world, a literal phoenix rising from the ashes.
We've just looked at a story filled with total chaos, massive errors, and near bankruptcy. Yet as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this thought. In a business landscape entirely obsessed with spinning the truth and hiding flaws, perhaps the most profitable thing you can do is simply admit your shortcomings, look your customer in the eye, and promise to do better. In a world of complex marketing, is radical honesty actually your best strategy? Something to think about.